I think it's about time we checked out Sora, don't you? Welcome back to the channel where we explore the creative uses of AI, and Sora has been out for a couple of weeks now and I have yet to cover it, and the really truly embarrassing reason why I haven't is that I didn't know how to access it. I knew I had access to it because I had a ChatGPT Plus account, but I couldn't figure out how to get to it. I thought you'd just go to the chat interface and somewhere down here there'd be a little button and you'd click on video and give it a prompt, and so I was just waiting for it to appear. If you have the same intelligence as me, you may have this issue as well. After a couple of weeks of everybody already having Sora and not me, I just did a simple search and realized that if you just go to Sora.com, that's where you can access it. Now there's a lot of talk about the newest model from Google called Veo 2, which is very, very impressive. But some people are making some crazy statements like Sora's crap compared to that now, and come on, it's not crap. If you scroll these sample images, it's the one we've been looking at for, what, a year? It's been the standard we've been comparing to. We've been using all those Sora prompts in our own demonstrations of other video models. And to dump on it now seems silly now that it's available to us. We've got not only this great model, but also a unique set of tools that comes with it. It's definitely worth exploring. The ChatGPT Plus account gives you up to 50 videos, that's 1,000 credits, and then up to 720p resolution and 5 seconds duration. However, when you use your 1,000 credits, you can still generate videos. It'll just be in relaxed mode, which basically means you're just going to wait a little longer. But you're not going to wait as long as you wait for models like Minimax and Kling. You'll just wait a little longer. But you can generate as many as you want, as long as you're willing to wait for one to render before you start another one. Now, if you're not willing to wait, and you really have a lot of video needs, and you're super impressed with the Sora model, then you might want to look at the ChatGPT Pro account for $200 a month, so you can just do as many as you want at a really fast speed, go up to 1080p and so on, 20 seconds duration, much better deal if you're really into it. So I would say if you're a video professional and you're really looking to get into this, then maybe try it out with the Plus plan, see what you think of the quality, and then maybe throw some money at the Pro plan and give it a whirl for yourself. But let's take a look at it and see what little features I'm talking about that make it different from some of the others. When I first launched Sora, I hadn't really watched any videos on it. I didn't know what any of these controls were, and so I just started playing with this. So I'm just going to share my personal exploration with it, and in doing so, you're going to see all the features that it has down here. These video models like more detailed prompts, and I'm going to show you a really great example of how important a more complicated prompt is. Now, to get complicated prompts, I just went over to ChatGPT and I said, research what makes an ideal prompt for the Sora AI video generation model, and then create a prompt based on the action of, and then I said a man being pushed into the backseat of a police car for that one. And then basically I could just give it whatever simple topic I wanted, and then it would crank out a video prompt for it. That's what I used for a lot of these, because I didn't use any of the Sora demo prompts because we've already seen what happens with those. I figured let's do some new stuff, right? My first video of the entire platform was generate a silent film style video of a clown juggling in front of a small crowd at a carnival. The video should be black and white with grainy textures and visible scratches, and it goes on. Now, let's take a look at this down here. Now, if I wanted to just change the prompt, I could simply click on Edit Prompt and change it just like you would any other prompt. But what is View Story? Let's check it out. If I click on View Story, you'll see that it took my simple prompt and broke it up into several scenes. So it actually rendered this thing in segments. First, it established the scene and says what's going on there, and then just 2 seconds in, it created another prompt. Intertitle appears in a vintage serif font, Behold the Amazing Juggler. I'm not sure that I saw that. And then the clown performs a dramatic finale, tossing the balls high into the air. Now, I didn't have to make any of those prompts, but the system created those prompts and generated what is this final result. Now, if I didn't like any of this, I could go into View Story. Let's say I didn't like the end. I could change this prompt down here and give it a different ending and re-render the whole thing. I'm going to recut this. I'm actually going to trim this down to right before where the woman comes in, and I can click in this timeline anywhere. I have 10 seconds here I can work with and give it something else to do. So I could basically create another prompt like the clown is struck by lightning. I don't know if it'll do it, but let's just see what happens. So I'm giving it 4 seconds for the clown to get struck by lightning, and then another 3 seconds to see what happens as a result of him doing it. And then you would just click create, and then it goes into the queue. Like I said, I'm in the relaxed queue now because I easily burned through my 1,000 credits in a couple of days playing with this. And I'm sure you will too. But again, you can keep generating these things in a relaxed mode, and it really only takes a couple of minutes. We've run into one of the first major problems here that I see with the platform that's probably going to irritate a lot of people, is that when you're doing anything with people and images of people, it's very, very restrictive. And in this case, just because there was a clown, it said this media contains people and learn more. Your account does not currently support creating videos with uploaded media containing people, but it's actually using the video that it created, not mine. So a little glitchy there. Here's another prompt. Generate a retro-style video of a diner scene in the 1950s, include classic cars, etc., just like before it created a whole story that you can see how it's divided up the video. So it starts by the establishing shot, and then in 4 seconds, the focus is on the jukebox, and then finally capturing a waitress smiling. But we can go back and look and see how accurately it caught that. We do have focus on the jukebox, and then there's the waitress smiling. Also notice that I only rendered these in 480p because I was trying to save credits at the time. I wasn't sure how it was going to affect anything. Also at the Plus level, there's a 5-second limit for videos that you render at 720p, and I really wanted this to be a 10-second video, so I was kind of forced to have the 480p resolution here. You'll see as we do the higher resolution ones that you can certainly get much better quality than this. Here's an example of what can happen if you use too simple of a prompt. This is a cute fuzzy alien standing in the pouring rain by a pond. He's looking into the sky as if waiting for a ride home. And although this is cute, it's not very engaging. It's certainly not pushing the potential of the model. So I ran that simple prompt through what I did here in chat, and it came up with a much more detailed description of what's going on in the scene. As a result, this is what it came up with. So much more detailed, much more engaging, way more cute. This is at 720p. I did up the resolution, which of course makes a difference, but you can see for sure that the prompting did a much better job as well. Here's another version that it rendered at the same time, which is truly amazing. Here's an incredibly fat man wearing denim shorts and an AC/DC tank top being chased basically by a monster. I did this for 5 seconds at 480p, and this is the result I got. If I was going to edit this prompt, I would probably want to take it up to 720p. Now we can also add styles to these prompts by clicking here, and we have a drop-down list of archival footage, we have balloon world, we have stop motion archival, we have archival twice, film noir, and cardboard and papercraft. Personally, I just go with none because I like the more realistic thing. I have done a few examples with these other models that I'll show you as we get there. But if I want to remix this at 720p or change any of these details, you'll notice that even if I want to go to 10 seconds, I can't, but that's something that's available if you go with the premium plan. Another fun feature of Sora is blend. This allows you to transition between this video and another video, either that you have generated here on the platform or can upload, but you can blend it in several different ways. In this case, I had this video here of the little guy standing, and then I had this other video that I generated of a pig walking down the street. And as you scroll across this timeline, you can see the videos going. Now, I am no expert in these various blend modes. I end up just playing with them and seeing what happens. We have a transition mode, which says seamlessly flow between clips. We have a sample mode, which is influencing a primary clip with another. This is where it gets a little confusing. And mixing, merging clips together, and then custom, where you can just play with these curves all you want, where you can just move these curves up and down. Again, I'm no expert here, so let's just go to mix. In this example, I used a transition blend between the two clips and got this right here. This was another generation also with the transition blend. Again, combining the elements of this guy just standing here in the rain and this pig walking down the path. Here I did a custom blend. I just played a little bit with these values, and this time I used this blended version that we had done before, and I mixed it with our guy running down the street. And what I got was the guy standing there for a little bit, and then he starts to run. If you look at our timeline here, it would suggest that this video of him standing there is getting most of the strength, and then as we go along the timeline, it gets less strength, and then we have him moving into the run, but still maintaining the characteristics of this because we did not bring it all the way down, so it's not there at all. It's still a blend, and that results in things like this. Here's an example where I played with these curves where most of the emphasis is placed on this video at the beginning, and then it drops off quickly down to the mid-range. Still doesn't go all the way down like this, so we should be transitioning into this video a little bit sooner, and we do. So he just stands there for a second, and then he just breaks into the run. But because I left this mix here in the middle, he doesn't fully transition into the city. The only reason I didn't do that is because I didn't know that I could drag it down further. Something else you can do with a finished video, create a seamless loop so it just goes and goes and goes in a circle. And that's what we've done here. You'll see that he stands there, he runs a little bit, 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 and then he stands there, and then he breaks out into the run again. So let's see how that works. You have a video that you want to loop, you can create the start and stop point of where the loop begins. It comes with the default value, but you can change it. A normal loop is going to add 4 seconds to the total video to allow for rendering whatever needs to happen to create that seamless loop. If you've got a lot of activity, then you may need a little bit more time to do that, so you might want to choose a long transition. Or if it's just a loop where there's not a lot of major changing in the position of the subject, you can do a much shorter loop as well. And by shorter loop, it's just how how much extra time is going to be added to the video. So I don't know what our obsession is with having animals run down fashion runways, but I guess I figured I'll try it. So I captured a whimsical scene on a high fashion runway where an anthropomorphic golden retriever dog, blah, blah, blah. This was done also at 480p. Here I did it at 720p, and it really changed the whole style of the thing. I didn't change any of the prompt to say make it look more like a cartoon or anything. It just kind of did it. Here was another render from that same pass. Again, it made it more of a cartoon at this higher resolution. I'm not sure why. This one's going to come around again. So an old woman is baking cookies, but is unaware that spiders are crawling onto her cookie dough and becoming a part of the cookies. So here you'll see I used the stop motion filter, for lack of a better word, to give it this look, and it was a fairly simple prompt. In this case, I uploaded an image as a reference. This was a still image of the cat clearly singing. I gave it the prompt, cat singing an opera, and we get this. So then I used the loop feature to create an endless loop of the cat singing operas. Or getting ready to cough up a hairball. Here I did a blend of the cat singing video and the woman making cookies video. It was a custom blend, so I played a little bit with these curves. The entire time there's going to be a blend of the two of them, not one extreme or the other, because again, I didn't go all the way up to give full emphasis to the model, because for whatever reason, seeing this video right here tricked me into thinking this was an upper limit. It's just the way my brain doesn't work sometimes. But we got a couple of renditions of this one. So we've got the cat singing and sitting there with cookies. So I really like what it did with this one. And here's the other one, just as adorable. Here, I actually tried to create a three-phase story here and created three separate prompts. First, about the man sitting on a bench holding a baby alligator. Then I want him to stand up from the bench and walk over to the lake. And then I want him to throw the alligator into the lake, causing a huge splash. I felt like I gave it enough time for the man to get up for 5 seconds and then get up and walk over to the lake and then stand there for a second and then throw the alligator in without changing scenes too much or doing camera cuts. This is what I got, though. He's sitting there holding the gator, which I sure would be better if I had more detailed prompts. And he just sort of walks into the lake. He never really throws it in, and the splash happens before the alligator would have even gone in. So then I came in here and I changed things around a little bit, changed the prompt to try to say, look, when it hits the water, that's when I want you to make a big splash and so on. Just changed a couple of the details. This was the redo. He's got the alligator in his hand. He walks over to the lake, but again, the splash happens first, but we do get a splash when the alligator hits the water. Here was just another attempt at the same thing, the man holding the gator, and then suddenly the gator's got 11 legs or whatever it is, and then, I don't know, it's just kind of chaos. That's not at all what I was hoping for. Here I went into the storyboard and just created one more prompt instead of having three different things, and I used this feature here, the expand caption, to take him walking over to the lake and throwing it in and turning it into this much more detailed scene. I'm not sure it did a ton here, maybe changed a little bit of the quality. He still doesn't stand up. What I wanted him to do was walk over and throw the alligator up into the air, and a parachute opens up and the alligator lands. I wanted it to be one seamless thing. I figured I gave it plenty of time for the guy to stand up and throw it up in the air, but instead he just sits there with it in his hand, and then it's just falling from the sky for some reason, and we don't know how it got up there. Here I revisited our pig animation that was actually done on another platform a long time ago, and here we use the remix feature, which, as it says, allows you to describe changes and create new videos based on this one. So here I said, make the pig a robotic spider. I used a strong remix here. You can do strong, you can do mild, you can do subtle, and you can do custom depending on how much you're asking it to change. I wanted an entire object replaced completely, so I went ahead and went with strong, which I believe was probably the right idea. And this generation with that. Just for grins, I did a mild remix to see what would happen, and of course we maintain more of an animal that is not a robotic spider, and we've got a little bit of the spider happening here. But since it was just a mild remix, it wasn't as drastic. Here I started a whole series of playing with the custom blend to try and understand what was going on and exactly how to play with it. So here we've got our video of the man at the lake that we saw before, and then this is another one of just this man tinkering with this pseudo-robotic bug. And we start here where all the attention is on this man at the lake, and then we drop down pretty quickly down to this one, but again, we don't go all the way. So we get this. We have the guy here, and he's just sort of with the bug. Same with this one. On this one, I let it go a little bit with the emphasis up here, then did a decidedly sharp drop down to this one here, and that looks like this. We got a scene change, so it was too much of a drop. That's why if you don't want a scene change, you want these things to be gradual. So on this one, I started way down here where this one would have more of the emphasis, and then slowly transitioned up where this one would have more of the emphasis. So now we've got one blended scene and we don't have a jump cut. This is only 4 seconds, so it happens pretty quick. It's not a jump. One more where we start with the emphasis on this and then ease down to this one. Looks like this. So again, making that slope a little less extreme allows for these smoother transitions without camera cuts. Here's another one. I like the camera movement on that. Right, it looks like somebody's just walking around with like an iPhone. That's really cool. Now, this was my epic fail of this experiment. All I wanted was for this parrot to morph into a squirrel. Is that so much to ask? If you view the story, it broke that one prompt up into 5. It first starts with establishing the shot of the parrot, and then it begins to flap its wings, and then it says the wings start to turn into a squirrel, and then by the end of it, it's totally a squirrel. But this is what is actually happening here. We just see a parrot hiding behind a branch, and in those 5 seconds, he never really turns into a squirrel. Which, granted, that's not a lot of time to turn into a squirrel, but I didn't also expect that it was going to break it up into 5 different prompts. Here, I made it a 10-second animation and spaced these prompts out a little bit more, especially where we're trying to go from the wings flapping and the initial transformation into a squirrel. But again, we just have a couple of birds, one that disappears, and then we have a jump cut, another one that disappears, and then we're back to another, and we're just jumping around between these parrots on branches, and we never see any sign of a squirrel. Here's another example of the remix where you can say, here's the starting video and here's how I want you to change it. Here's the starting video. I was a little afraid it wasn't going to work because it doesn't like people in your videos or images that you upload as references. If you try to upload something with your likeness or somebody who even looks like a regular person, it's going to say, so we'll see where that goes. But in this case, I got lucky because I guess this was so much of a creature. So the prompt I gave it was, a robot made of wires and paper clips devours odd food in the middle of a forest. So it used that driving video to create this animation. Again, at 480p. I'll show you the high-res one in a second. Here's another version of the same thing. I love the blinking eyes of the robot. Here, I popped it up to 720p and said there are biomechanical insects crawling around the table, but the remix I did as a mild remix, and you're not seeing any bugs on either of the versions that it gave us. Here, back down to 480p, I added there are biomechanical insects, but I made it a strong remix, and here they are. We've got the robot eating, and we have got the insects going. Now, the more we remix this, it strays a little bit more from the exact movement that was going on in that first video, but we've got the essence of things. Here's another of the 480p version. And then here it is at 720p. So much more detail, everything's more realistic, just looks pretty cool and quite disturbing actually. Here's the other version, 720p. Got something in his mouth right there that he does not see. So here's a fun use of remix. I had this mouse here and the prompt was, a polar bear walks out of a cave to eat a slab of meat, and it remixed that mouse coming out to this. So then I wanted to do a blend between the original mouse one and the bear. So we start up here with just a custom blend where we have the emphasis first on the bear and then down to the mouse. Again, didn't go down all the way either way. So what we get is this little hybrid mouse bear coming out of the cave. Here's another version. Super cute. I could go on and on with examples, but you've seen the basics. There's not that much more to it than that. The simple interface, you can play with it all you want. And assuming you've got at least the Plus plan of ChatGPT, you're never going to run out of rendering. So you can just keep experimenting and keep experimenting. You've got a little bit of patience. So I'd love to know your thoughts on Sora, if you've played with it yet, or if you're going to. And what do you think of what you've seen here in terms of these tools? Does the various blends and remixing and recut give it something that some of the others don't? What would you like to see added to Sora that isn't there right now? If these are the types of things you like to learn more about, well, why not subscribe to this channel? Because these are the topics we discuss all the time.
If you subscribe now, I will not look for you. I will not pursue you. But if you do not, I will look for you. I will find you. And I